Welcome back to Serving Up Success, everybody. Great to have you here. I'm Dr. Natesh Dasanj. This week's episode is Leadership Skills for 2026, Emotional Intelligence in an AI-driven world. Who should listen to this show this week? Well, anybody who's got a pulse, because if you're alive today, you are living in an AI world and you need emotional intelligence. We all do. As I said, I'm Dr. Natesh Dasanj, and I am joined by the fabulous
Bruce Kramer, your favorite corporate cockroach.
He's my favorite. He's the only one I know. He's my favorite.
He's my favorite too. He's my favorite too.
And Angie Snowball. Angie Snowball, your Renaissance woman.
Welcome, Bruce and Angie. How are you both doing?
Good. I'm having a pretty good week.
Good. It's a little chilly here on the island. It dipped down to like the 50s.
Oh, shut up. It's 7.
Shut
Oh my God, you're in the 50s. I'm in coats. I'm in stocking cap.
The island sunshine. Just stop going on about the island.
50s. Well, I don't even have 2 digits, so.
So why are we excited about this week? I'll tell you why I'm excited, because we're going to break down self-awareness. We're going to break down empathy, emotional regulation, trust building, all of these things in an AI world. Emotional intelligence has become more important in an AI world rather than less important. There are lots of reasons why this is the case. EQ gives competitive advantage because AI is great with certain things, but it's not that good with emotions. It's humans that lead effectively in the world. It's not AI machines that lead effectively in the world. AI does great optimization, but it's humans who understand leadership, mistakes. It's humans who get all of that right. It's humans who can build trust, clarity, and resilience. So we're all of us really excited about this week's show. Angie, I'd love to hand over to you to sort of introduce the cocktail and just kick us off in our first segment.
Yeah, well, surprise, surprise. Today we have an old fashioned. Seems to be a favorite in our group. We all know how to make it. Grab your bourbon, grab your bitters, and cheers. All right. So like Dr. D said, a big trending topic right now is EQ, because it's been AI and everybody's like, wow, AI is here. I don't have to do anything ever again for the rest of my life. It's fixing all my problems. And the reality is it's fixing a lot of problems and it's really just changing the landscape. But there's so much more that we still need. Humans are still needed. We need it for a lot of different reasons to make the world go round. So when we get started today, I'm going to ask the guys, because we all use AI, right? And I think one of the things that people are missing is there still needs to be a human element. For one, you have to ask it something, right? You can't just sit down at your laptop and ChatGPT says, guess what I think you should do today? Create a course based on this, and then you just sell it. And then you have to ask it something, and you have to ask it something smart, because it's still a garbage in, garbage out situation. It's just the garbage is not as bad coming out because it's smarter and smarter, but we still have to ask it the right things. And in addition to the other part of that, when it is giving us stuff, it's us humans who have to decide what to do with it. How do we integrate this information with our team? How do we integrate this wonderful course or process or solution it gave us? We still have to humanly go through with the people we're working for, with, or whatnot together and make it work. So let's talk about one of the first things that we see with the new AI world and how we're going to deal with it. So AI is here. People are scared AI is taking their job. That's the number one thing you see, right? There are movies, there are sitcoms, everything about AI taking over. So your employees are scared. Even if they don't think it's Terminator time yet, they're still afraid that AI is going to take over their job. They are afraid of change. Human beings will always be afraid of change. As Dr. D's told us a million times, our brain is wired for safety. Change does not equal safety. It can, but it's not the way our brain thinks. So we got to work on that. Burnout. Sometimes the AI doesn't help you with burnout. It just gives you more information. You're more overwhelmed. You're trying to process more than you ever were before, right? And then generally, I think that leads to the overwhelmed feeling of fear. Like it's just happening so fast. I'm spinning out of control. And all of those things are emotions, which are the things that AI doesn't really deal with. So, Bruce, what would be, think of your days back in the Granger days, and you've got all the tools that you have now that you didn't have then. And you've got people, number one, afraid that AI is going to take over their job. How do you handle that? And what EQ skills did you need to be able to handle that?
Whoa, is that loaded?
Wow.
The first thing I'm going to say is that, because you hit the nail right on the head. So that we've talked about this a few times now in the show, is that psychological safety. Whenever there's this much of change coming at a group of people this fast, it's important that everybody feels safe to ask questions, to challenge outputs or assumptions, and raise their hand just with just sheer concerns or risks that they feel are imminent. And so you need to get people engaged. And the only way you're going to do that is if they feel safe. The second most important thing is clarity. And not just the why, or I should say the what we're doing or what's changing, but why. But you need lots of clarity, and you need to create that psychologically safe environment so people come with you. They come along with you on this journey that's coming at us at 100 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That's how I would say, it's not that complex. I think what happens with leaders is you get caught up in all of the technical aspects and all of the great things AI can do for you. And it's amazing. AI is amazing. But what we do is we lose our awareness as to how people are feeling emotionally. We tend to fall back on our experience or our authority, when really what people just want is they want a chance to be heard, to, for a good leader to empathize. That doesn't mean you throw accountability out, just the opposite. If you have a psychologically safe environment and you have clarity, you will get accountability.
And of all he said there, one of the things that kept jumping at me was listening skills. We've always needed listening skills, and honestly, they've generally been poor, even before AI. It's something people considered soft. We call them soft skills. And it's always kind of pissed me off because the soft skills are not easy to get, and they're so powerful. So why are we calling them soft? You know what I mean? Like, you need these things. But listening, we've never been great at listening. And I think listening skills need to be improved more than ever. And that's going to be my question to Dr. D, is around the listening skills type of situation, because I think that we're also getting a little bit lazy because AI can do so much for us. Like, I'm going to take the example of a job description because that's something that happens in academia as well. Like, what is your rubric? What are we going to go around? And AI can spit that out in 10 seconds, right? So we're not taking the time to really go through that and make sure it's the right thing and explain to someone what that rubric means. It may be clear in my mind, but do they know what it means? Do they know what their expectations are? Because all we're doing is handing over what AI spit out now. Not everybody, by the way, but I see this happening more and more. And what happens on the other side, we're more confused and we're trying to ask questions, and the other person's not listening. Like, I just gave you this very detailed description, and the other person's trying to say, but I don't understand it. And we're in this cloud and this whirlwind spiral of miscommunication again. So what can we do, Dr. D, in that situation? What advice can you give to leaders to help them make sure they're not getting too lazy, that they're taking the benefits of AI, but they're using their EQ to put out the best possible output of that?
What a brilliant question, Angie. And I don't have a equally brilliant answer. But I will say this, and the way you asked Bruce the question as well was fantastic, and Bruce's reply was fantastic. But I will say this in terms of listening skills. I don't have a great answer, but I have this answer. Make your assumption that you haven't listened. Make your starting point that you have not listened carefully. Don't make your assumption that I'm a great listener, because there's a chance you'll miss something. Make your assumption that I have not actively listened and tried to observe the underlying emotions. So start from that vantage point, from that assumption, which is the opposite of being a great listener. Assume that you are not a great listener.
That's really good advice.
When I want to do something,
It is.
when I want to do something, when I want to really understand something like a business partner or a relationship, I just tell myself I haven't really listened, and that immediately puts me in the place where I have to listen. I've got to say this about you two. You two are such brilliant listeners. Whether it's you're listening when we're having a verbal conversation like this, a in-person conversation, or whether you're listening to the in-between things in an email, you two are so good at picking up on the observations. And as you know, I'm British, so I may be thinking that all Americans are just great listeners. Is that right, guys?
In fact, I would add to what you said, Dr. D, with the assumption of assuming. Like, honestly, I've heard that a lot in my life. I'm sure Bruce has too. He has that personality that you feel like you're listening. People say you're a great listener. And I was a little, I don't want to say arrogant about it, but I'm like, oh, that's one of my strengths. I'm a good listener. And then I one time took a class on listening skills. Honestly, because I was thinking about giving a class and I was like, oh, I just want to see more about what they do, how they do it. And taking that class, I realized how much I didn't know, because you don't know what you don't know. And that's true of every single thing. So if listening skills are like key and critical to your job, which they are to almost every job, including being a parent and a spouse and a kid and everything else you are, listening skills are key to everything, life, career, business. Think about taking a listening skills course, just maybe a half-hour one. I know Bruce and I are putting together some courses, Splash into Action, that they're more about taking it to find the awareness of where you are and identify where your strengths and your weaknesses are. So we're always improving, learning, and getting better. So sounds like a good time to hand this over to Dr. D, because he's going to talk to us a little bit more about what EQ, like, what does it really mean? Because it's a big buzzword. I think it's important that we dive into the tangible aspects of what it means. So all you, Dr. D, educate us.
And well, Angie, you've just educated me and the audience over the last 10 minutes. So thank you so much. So what does EQ mean? What's the definition of EQ? I'm just going to hit some high points. I'm not going to talk about it for 20 minutes, but I do want to hit some high points, and then I want to come at it from a really different angle, which it'll become very apparent in the next 60 seconds or so. But let's hit those high points. So Bruce has talked about a couple of these things already. Psychological safety. What does that mean? It means that your team or you or your environment, whether it's life, career, or business, everybody feels safe to be able to speak, to be able to think. Forget speaking forget speaking, just to be able to think, so that they don't answer in sound bites. They're really able to think, so that when they do articulate what they're saying, it's in a really considered way. And why was it considered? Because they were psychologically safe. One way or another, either the leader or themselves or their environment created this psychological safety. Another high point, empathy without losing authority. I'm not going to go into that because Angie and Bruce covered that a lot. Empathy is important, but not at the risk of losing authority. That's we've already covered that, so I don't want to use more time to repeat that. Here's where I really want to focus on: emotional regulation under pressure. What does emotional regulation under pressure mean? It means being still, being able to think with clarity and regulating your emotions so that none of us react in a,
I knew he was
in
going
a,
to say something like that. I suck at that. Knew he was going to bring that up.
I don't
I
see
hate
that.
regulating my emotions.
Yeah, well, regulating emotions. I think I'm not sure I've always been good at regulating my emotions, but let me cover this a little bit, cover this a little bit more, because then I have this question, which will take some thought from both of you. It's to both of you, so anybody can dive in when they feel they're ready. I've always thought that I'm not that emotionally intelligent. I'm okay, but I'm not that emotionally intelligent. I've got some strengths. I'm pretty good at self-awareness. I think I'm pretty good at listening, but not really. I can repeat the words that somebody has used, but I'm not that good at listening in terms of what do those words mean. I just have a good sort of semi-photographic memory that I can repeat the words. If somebody says the words, I can repeat them, but I'm not that good at it. And so with that sort of introduction, um, around it, here's my proposition and here's my question. I sort of feel that a lot of people think, if not most people, if not everybody thinks that they have good emotional intelligence. I don't know many people who think they don't have good emotional intelligence. You two do. I don't want you to answer the question that whether you two do or not, or how you came to be emotionally intelligent. Why do you think so many people think they're emotionally intelligent? Why do you think that's the case? What evidence have people got to think that they are emotionally intelligent and they don't need to develop?
It's lack of self-awareness. People don't want to look at themselves because if you really look in the mirror really close, you're going to see things that aren't perfect. Like right now, I'm like, as I get older and I get all these crazy wrinkles, I mean, I've got some doozies up here. I'm like, you know what? I think I'll just sit back here. Oh my God. I look so good from back here. Oh yeah. That's awesome. I'm going to stay right here. Where when I was young, I was all up in there like, oh my God, I look great. And I think that's true of what's inside of us too. Like you get to a point you're comfortable. Your life is going well. There's nothing wrong overtly. This is the problem. It's subversively that these things come and get us. Nothing wrong overtly. So why would I look? What am I looking for? It goes back to you don't know what you don't know, which to me is why self-awareness is not something that you achieve once. It's something you have to look at all the time. It's something you have to look into things that you think you know, like listening skills. I'm always going to learn something new. I've never been to a course where I didn't pick up a nugget, even when it's something I'm supposed to be the expert in and I've studied forever. There's always going to be something, but we have to be open to realizing that there are going to be things we don't want to see. We are human. We'll always have weaknesses. We will never be perfect. And the only way to be better is to continually take a close look at ourselves, especially on something that we know is important for our success, and truly evaluate where we are. Because it's like anytime you take a journey, how the hell would you get there if you don't know where you are to start? You can't put in GPS like, hey, I want to go here. And it's like, where are you? I'm like, I don't know, but get me there. I mean, it doesn't work, right? You have to know where you're starting. So I think that's why so many people think they have EQ and they don't, is because nothing's failing right now. There's nothing blowing up in their face right now. So they have no reason to look or to think they know something else. And honestly, I find that people who need it most are the people who think they need it least, are the people that think they have it all together.
Mm.
I'm like, dude, you are so far from anything EQ. I don't even think you know how to spell it. It's like, I'm so good. I'm like, no, you're not. You're bad. And sometimes those people that won't have self-awareness, it's a little bit our job to nudge them. If we care about them. I mean, if you want to see them implode, that's a different story. But if you want to help somebody, sometimes it's your job to put it in front of them and say, hey, have you ever thought about, looking at this? Share a podcast with them. Share our podcast. Share something with them to help them start seeing and start looking. That's what I got. How about you, Bruce?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I apologize for that interruption. I don't know if you heard it or not. you touched on so many things. The other thing I would say is that when we talk about performance, especially as an organization or in teams, we focus on a lot of the metrics that deal with outcomes and stuff. We don't often have the conversation specifically about that person, mine, their emotional intelligence. We really don't have very focused conversations on that. It tends to be more on the outcomes. So it's easy to kind of get by unless something bad really happens. The other thing is, like you pointed out, ego and insecurity. When you talk emotional intelligence, for whatever reasons, the feathers go up around insecurity and ego. Where when you talk about, did we hit our sales number? There's competitiveness towards that, or whatever the outcome metrics may be. That seems to be a little bit safer to talk about. It's not so personal, where emotional intelligence is a very personal thing. And I'm here to say, thank God I had some very good mentors and coaches along my path, my career, because they would hit me upside the head. Because I really, and this, I struggle to be a good listener. I have to be constantly beating myself up on that to stay true to being a good listener. And I, like you, Angie, I don't have a poker face, and sometimes if somebody pisses me off, it's evident.
Yeah.
And that emotional reaction. So it's something that I continually have to work on. But what I appreciate, especially being in the coaching space, is to make that a bigger part of the conversation than just other performance related things. Because this is what actually makes the difference. And it's interesting. It's like all ass backwards, for lack of a more technical term, that we focus on all the outcomes, and really it all begins with us, and particularly our strengths as it relates to emotional intelligence. If you get that right, just about everything in your life, career, and business will improve. But it's just something we don't start with in most conversations.
And real quick, I want to point out something that Bruce said that, and it goes along with everything we're saying, the ego. He said, it's really hard for me to listen. Like, he basically said, I'm a bad listener. Like, I tried to, but do you know why? That's his challenge, because he is so strong in other places. He's so strong in organizing and implementation and go. That's why it's a challenge for him to listen. And sometimes other people listen too much and they can't do anything. That's why you go to Bruce to get it done. Get it done with Bruce, because he is so strong in that. So I think it's also important to note that just because you're very strong in one EQ area, it doesn't mean you're bad at EQ because you're weak in one place. Maybe you're really strong in another soft skill. Power skill is what they should call them. But that, I think that's another reason that helps with self-awareness is you're not flawed, you're not broken, you're not weak. You're just stronger somewhere else, and you're trying to balance it out.
Let me just piggyback on that. Actually, when Bruce said, and I agree with everything you said, Angie. But when Bruce said, I'm not a great listener, I mean this really sincerely, Bruce. In fact, I don't know why I said that, because I always mean everything sincerely. That you really are a total inspiration to me, because you're so open with confiding your perceived weaknesses, but you've made listening a big strength.
Yes.
But long may you continue saying it's not a strength, because you will continue it being great. And I would just say this, that it occurred to me when you two were speaking, and I think maybe, and I'm making up theory on the hoof now. I don't know if this is real theory, but I'm going to make it up anyway. And it's this. I think if we all think we're emotionally intelligent, many people do. I've never met anybody who says, I'm emotionally unintelligent. May have one or two people, but very, very rarely. And maybe there's some confusion with self-esteem. That if you say that you're not emotionally intelligent, you may think that you're conveying a lack of self-esteem. Nothing could be further from the truth. Look at Bruce in action. High self-esteem, that he is capable of saying, I'm not a great listener. It takes high self-esteem, high confidence to be able to do that. So let's not confuse confessing and confiding our weak, emotionally intelligent areas, because EQ is so important, as Angie kicked off the show.
Well, that's what
EQ
I was
is so
trying to say,
important.
is what Dr. D said. That made sense.
Well,
Thanks
it-
for clearing that up.
Yeah,
you know
no
what's
problem, Angie. No problem. It's my pleasure.
I mean, you made a great point, Dr. D, because part of how I work on the fact that, and I know this from behavioral assessments that I've taken over damn near 5 decades now, I have little to no empathy naturally. I am a poor listener. But one of the things I do, and I do this with my clients. So if you're listening out there, and I know some of my clients, I tell them right up front. I kind of, one of the things we always do, and when I say we, my clients and I, is we always take the behavioral assessment at the start of an engagement. Unless it's been less than 6 months, I'll share what and we share. So I can right away let them know I have a problem listening sometimes. So I'm giving you permission to say, shut the up and hear me out, Bruce. You're
My
not
favorite thing
really
to say to
listening.
Bruce.
I grant them permission. Or I say to them, I may err on the side of, damn it, why is it this, So the empathy, call me out. Because quite frankly, if we're having that kind of a relationship in which we talked about psychological safety, well, that includes providing feedback to one another. Because then in real time, we're all getting better. It's okay. And to your point, you have to have confidence to do that. But I tell you, the confidence builds when you've got 4 or 5 people sitting around a table and you're that comfortable to say, hey, no offense, man, I love you, but shut up. I gotta, you're not listening. That is very powerful because as Angie said, none of us are perfect. And if any one of us ever thinks from an emotional intelligence standpoint, we've got it, you could just kiss. But you're
Yeah.
kidding yourself.
Yeah. One time I had somebody tell me, because there was some crazy stuff going on, and I was like, am I crazy? Like, what is happening? Am I crazy? And he said to me, he goes, as long as you're the one asking that question, the answer is no, because you are there for self-awareness. And I think that goes for all of these soft skills. Like, if you stop asking yourself, am I a good listener? Maybe that's time to look again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's when you're asking yourself that, am I good at this? Am I looking at this? That's when you're growing or you're open to growing. It's when you stop asking questions that we should be concerned. I like that.
I think this is a good point to hand over to Bruce, because he's already started the EQ in action, decision making and trust. And I think this is going to be so important because, there's in the high tech AI world, there's a lot of trust erosion. So, Bruce, over to you. Talk us through EQ in action.
Well, a lot of this has been focused on leaders, but again, it's everyone on the team, in your family, whether you're in the life mode, the career mode, or whatever. But a big thing that goes with your emotional state is fear, defensiveness, ego, and also an overwhelming sense of urgency that can really distort judgment. And I equate fear not only, a big part of that is insecurity. And again, these things you can have. The neat thing about AI is it's putting all kinds of information instantaneously at our fingertips. But now it's up to us to work through that together. And again, fear, defensive, ego, and this, got to get it done, got to get an overabundance of urgency just kills that. So when I think of myself personally, when you lead or are just a team member and you're emotionally reacting, you're going to overcorrect because your thought is, oh shit, we're going the wrong way. So let's go that way. And it'll be like that. And it'll be like, wait, whoa. There's a happy medium here, but you're going to lose that if you're in a very spun up emotional state. The other thing is, you will go to control. And this I have to guard against. When I'm in a situation where maybe it's not as clear as it needs to be, I err on the side of taking more control when really you need to make things more clear. Clarity will give you control. And I think as leaders, when we're caught and we're not as certain or clear as we go to control. You can't do that with AI because it'll expose you like never before as just what a jerk you're being. And then also you tend to, when it's very emotional, you don't want to have the hard conversations. So that's not good. So one of the things that I've recognized and I've had some great leaders in my career that were extremely strong emotionally in terms of emotional intelligence. They would slow down thinking. And it struck me, Angie, as you were talking earlier, to be a better listener, you slow down your thinking. Because what I find happens with me is I want to get my thoughts out there. And that prohibits me from actually just listening. So slow down your thinking. You separate the facts from feelings when you exercise strong emotional intelligence. And you, as I said earlier, you talk as much about the why as you do the what. And I'd say as a leader or a team member. So I have a question for you two. So that's how I kind of cover decision making and trust, because psychological safety with some of these key attributes I just spelled out, that all leads to trust. And once there's trust, change is so much easier. But with that, where do you see in your careers, in your life, we don't have to talk just business, where do you see that people struggle with that capability of engagement, burnout, and trust? What do you see driving, good or bad, what's happening there?
And do you want to go first?
Or better yet, let me rephrase that question. Let me be more direct. What does emotional, intelligent leadership look like in moments of conflict or uncertainty? Let me be more clear.
Okay. So I think...
Najesh, you first. Dr.
Do you want me to go on?
Yes.
Sorry, who's going first?
You go.
Okay. So I think you've already given me an insight about 3 minutes ago into what this... I don't know if you deliberately meant to do that.
No, I never do anything deliberately.
No, Bruce. It was...
I was going to say it wasn't me. I'll do it.
What brilliant. The difference between control and clarity. I think we talked about Gary Hamel last week. Gary Hamel would love this, what you said. Basically, in moments of uncertainty or conflict, don't go to control, which is my default position too. Okay. But no, go to clarity and maybe slow down and achieve the control in other people's minds by asking very cutting, decisive questions. So I think the answer is, I'm not saying that I model this, by the way. I'm saying that my default position is like yours, Bruce. I take control and I make sure that everything is being done in a good way. But actually, a better model would be for me to drive clarity in the thoughts and brains of others. That would be a much better model in terms of conflict or uncertainty. Much better.
And I
That's
think
a
something that helps with that, like Natej is saying, I think it's more unusual if you are the person who says, oh, wait, just a moment. I know the world's exploding, but I'd like to get clarity. That's weird, right? That's more unusual. So I think it's
I'm legit, man.
everybody
Yeah.
wants control when it's spinning out of control.
Yeah.
But and this is going to sound funny, but I do think something very simple that helps with this is breathing. And I'll be perfectly honest, the first time someone walked me through all that bullshit woohoo, count up, down, cross your toes, think something you can feel here, I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. This woman's a nutball, and I went out. But and maybe it's not going to be as structured as like some of those things, but truly that's where it all starts. I think it's because that's the best thing you can do to get rid of any fear is just to take a moment to center. And that all starts with a deep breath. And then you can start to think, okay, I do need to think, what's the plan? How are we going to get out of here? But originally, everybody's first response is going to be, oh my God, I got to do this. I got to save you. I got to protect. I got to go. I got to do this because we want control. And it's very hard to put clarity first. So yeah, I think Bruce is right too with that. And we're getting close to the end, so we can't possibly get into this, but going into what Bruce said first, it's almost a whole nother episode, is trust. Because with so much in AI right now and so much noise out there and so much happening, trust and just the political environment is going nuts everywhere. I mean, people are trying to buy Greenland and all kinds of stuff is going on. Insane things are happening everywhere. And who knows who to trust, right? Media outlets are different from one to the other. And this guy tells me this, and this guy says this, and that's the right thing, and that's the wrong thing, and you're evil and you're great. And it's just everywhere, right? So trust in general is just becoming an issue. And that's something that EQ, that's the number one result of having good EQ is building trust, sharing trust. And that's the foundation for everything we're going to do. So I think that is something we really need to focus on as we go forward working with teams, is the trust that we have with each other. And it doesn't mean we have to agree. Like in the three of us, there's probably three very strong, different opinions on each one of these things that happen, especially in the world that's going on. But we all get along, because we trust each other at a base level.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, you said it earlier. We listen to one another.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the issues we're facing in the world today is we really don't listen to one another. We're trying to get our point across, believing our point is the only point, instead of just listening to one another and see if there isn't maybe more middle ground.
Yeah. And if there isn't, there isn't.
That's a big part of emotional intelligence as a leader, is to be able to call a timeout and just listen to one another instead of going after one another.
Yeah, I agree.
Talking of timeout, guys, I think we gotta hit Angie on the coaching the assignment. We're close to the edge of time.
We really enjoyed this one. We talked long today. Okay, so I actually printed this one out so I don't screw it up, because I think this is important. This is the part where you do things. So everything we talked about, think about it. And these are some things we want you to do. So first, do an EQ leadership audit. It's probably going to take about 15 minutes, and we've got a couple questions that you should ask yourself. Number one, when you're under pressure, do you respond or do you react? Which one do you do? Number two, where might tone, pace, and assumptions be creating friction? Assumptions are not always good. Number three, who on my team feels safe telling me the truth? That's a really important one. So once you've done this EQ audit, then we want you to think about some action steps as you go forward. So choose one upcoming conversation, just one thing that you're going to intentionally do this for. And probably should be maybe one of your difficult ones, right? Because that'll teach you a lot more about where you are with EQ and where you can grow. But pause before responding. We already talked about that, but just put this in your notes, something to do. And then ask one clarifying question. Before you respond, before you react, ask a clarifying question. And then last, listen to the answer to that question without interrupting, and listen to hear and to understand not to respond. So those are your action steps for this week. Take a difficult conversation, try that out, and most importantly, do an EQ audit of yourself. We'd love to know what you find out. And if you need some help and growing in some of those areas, all three of us are open to working with you and talking with you about it. So Dr. D, thanks for running us through this week. Everybody, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, do all the stuff, and we will see you next week.
Cheers.
Bye bye.